Is the Yolobox Ultra the best encoder for your church to invest in? I'm going to talk about it and compare it to some of the other encoders that I've used over the last few months, ATEMs, web presenters, OC Stream Decks, and other methods out there. How does this Ultra Yolobox compare? Let's dive into it. So before we get going, YOLO Live has not seen this video. This is not a sponsored video. They sent me this unit. It has to go back to them. These are my honest thoughts after using it for about a month now. And I do have a previous video on my channel where I looked at the Yolobox Pro. The Ultra is a much more capable encoder. If you're not familiar with it, let me just kind of give you a quick rundown. It is an all-in-one self-contained switcher, encoder, recorder, and it has a touch screen. It's kind of a different animal than an ATEM or some other type encoding box that you might have used. It features 4 HDMI inputs, 2 USB inputs, microphone and line in input. It's battery powered. You can record ISO feeds of those cameras to an SD card. You can also do bonding with Wi-Fi, Ethernet, and a SIM card all at the same time. Talk to you a little bit more about that in a minute. And then it's got the touch screen, which is really nice, bright touching. The touching works well on it. And it's kind of a neat solution if you're looking for a device that can kind of do all these things. But it's got more up its sleeve. It can actually do vertical streaming to TikTok and Instagram. I wish they would add YouTube to that feature list, but it's not there that I can see yet. I have done some live streaming vertically with this unit. It's similar to how their in-stream worked. And, you know, I can kind of take it or leave it. Instagram crushes the quality so much. I don't think it's YOLO's fault. It's just, you know, the ingest on Instagram is not the greatest. But for what it's worth, it does do it. So for someone like me that has an ATEM 2ME Constellation HD, that is handling all of our switching of 13 cameras and graphics and all those things, but it doesn't do encoding or recording, a device like this is interesting, right? Because right now I have a HyperDeck Mini that costs $500 and a Web Presenter HD, which costs another $500. So I'm at $1,000 there. This device is about $1,500. But obviously you can do a little bit more with the Yolobox Ultra. So once the Ultra power's on, you'll be presented with these 3 options right here: live streaming, vertical streaming, or monitor mode. Let's just go into monitor mode. Here's all your sources. So I've just got a computer plugged in here. It does have some handy editing abilities there, chroma keying. You can flip the image, rotate it, crop it, rename it. And that comes in handy if you have a camera that you need to tweak or do some keying on. Up here where it says 1080p, you can choose 4K, 2K, 1080, 720, 480. This is just a 1080 signal. You can click record or do replay if you're doing like a sports broadcast. That's not really a house of worship type thing. Over here on this section, you've got volume controls, you've got scoreboard, replay, you can record the ISO feeds, set the bit rates, the frames per second, the encoding, settings. You can do some auto switching of things, which might be interesting if you're a smaller church to have it like every so often switch. You can do that on ATEMs with macros and other things like that. Video switching control, it does have NDI out and input, but those input is an extra cost. And so while it is a feature, it's like $100 more to get. You can output video via the HDMI output at either 50 or 60. You can make it be the program output, or you can have it be the screen. What we were doing when we were encoding is just going full screen with this and then still having our bit rate and encoding settings showing the health of the live stream over to another monitor. Speaking of monitors, that's one other cool thing I've seen done is people using a touch screen monitor via the USB for control of the YOLO. While this is a touch screen, one thing I'll touch on later is the inputs and outputs make this a little quirky to use. So if you have a touch screen that has the exact same aspect ratio pixel to pixel, you can plug that in with USB and control the Yolobox, you know, from another director position, which is pretty cool. It also has USB-C output that you can connect and use like a webcam or Zoom settings or even into ProPresenter or OBS. One other thing the Yolobox Ultra does offer, if we go into live streaming that some others don't offer, is the ability to go to multiple destinations at once without an intermediary. So like Restream or something like that. So if we create a new live stream here, we'll just call this test. And these don't really matter if you're going to like Restream or somewhere else where you already are creating these, but you can add in cover photos and thumbnails and set the time and date. If we go into that live stream now, everything that you put as a destination, YouTube, Facebook, Restream, anything like that will show up here in your platforms, and then you can just enable it or disable it accordingly. Now, inputting RTMP keys and stuff like that on a touch screen can be tedious, so they actually make a pretty easy way for you to get your RTMP feeds in there. If we go ahead and go to here and then choose RTMP, it will send you a link to your email, and then you can fill it out on your computer, and then it will actually update here on the Yolobox Ultra, which is handy. I believe you can also connect a Bluetooth keyboard, but I did not do that. One thing you definitely want to check on your streaming code settings is constant bitrate. We were streaming at 8,000 kilobits per second at 2997. And you can actually do H.265. Not all services accept that. I believe YouTube does. I don't think Facebook does, but it's a lighter compression with about the same quality. So that's good, especially if you have a weaker internet connection. All right, so it sounds like a pretty sweet device, right? For $1,500, all those features. Well, let me tell you some of my thoughts after working with not only the Yolobox Ultra, but the Pro, and if I think this is a good fit for most churches. Let's talk about some of the things I don't like. I said it on the Yolobox Pro, and I'll say it again on the Ultra. I despise the port layout. So they have a bunch of HDMI, Ethernet, USBs all across the top of the device. And then you've got SD cards and SIM cards and power and headphones and line inputs all along the bottom of the device. Well, you can see I have it on this tripod thing here just to be able to get it to be functional. It's a touch screen, and so you need to be able to see it and use it. And most people end up sitting this flat on a tabletop in order to be able to plug things into it. Well, it's just not very functional. I requested this last time. I'll request it again. Why not just put all the ports on the back of the unit, even if it made it have a bevel at the bottom of it where all the ports could come out the back? Because then I wouldn't have to worry about ports on top and bottom. And you're always going to have to worry about that because power and headphones and line ends is all on the bottom. So it's not like it's just an SD card where you can just kind of pop it in and then let it be. So I'm not a fan of the way the ports are laid out. Another reason that becomes problematic is you can see I have these HDMI 90-degree adapters. If you don't have this, then your HDMI has to be up here in the air, sticking up like a crazy thing, and it just is not functional. It's going to get in the way. It's going to get caught on things, and I'm just not really a fan of it. Double tap and it switches. So if this was ports in the back, you could actually make this rack mountable. And I think that this is a solution for a mobile church, to have this be able to be rack mounted and have all the ports already wired up in the back. And then you're just ready to go with a touch screen. You don't have to have any other monitors, anything else. And you're just ready to go for your live stream. It can do everything you need. But the way that it's built right now, it's just really not very functional for something like that. And it would be great for that because it's got battery backup. It's got the bonding features, which you have to pay extra for cellular bonding and Wi-Fi and Ethernet together. So it's not just out of the box going to work. But it could be a really good solution for a mobile church if it wasn't for the ports. A couple of other things that are just minor bugs that still kind of annoy me is that the HDMI output of the program feed is not the best that I've ever experienced. It seems a little lower quality. It seems like it's either dropping some frames or changing the frame rate to 60 instead of it staying at 30. I like the ability to, whenever you're streaming and encoding to just go full screen with this, but still have all of my data around it on the external monitor for preview. That's nice. But the quality of the program out, I really wouldn't want to pass anything through this that would be mission critical. And much like the ATEMs, there is the headphone delay when monitoring. I don't understand why Blackmagic on their smaller ATEM Mini Extremes and ATEM Mini Pros can't get this right. Yolobox, it's also delayed. This thing should be powerful enough to live preview the headphone output. The OC Stream Deck that I've been testing, the Go Stream Deck, sorry, it is right there, real-time monitoring out of the headphone port. So it's a really annoying thing to try and monitor your audio live when it's delayed. So overall, what was my experience testing this unit before I send it back? We did a few weeks using this unit, and the first week, man, it looked great. Streaming at 8,000 kilobits per second. The quality looked awesome, hitting restreaming up to YouTube. Much better than some other units I've tested. But about halfway through the stream, the audio glitched somehow and then was delayed behind the video up until that point. Now, my recording on my HyperDeck Mini, it was still good. So it was something with the Yolobox. They are very good about sending out firmware updates. There's another one I'm supposed to do now, but I'm done testing it. I did update and then it no longer did that, but then I had some weird audio glitching happening. Supposedly that is fixed. So, your mileage may vary, and I don't usually like to buy things on the promise of firmware updates fixing an issue, but just know there is pretty great support, I would say, for this unit. Much better than like Blackmagic is great at updating. They just released another update for the ATEM Mini Pro, but it's hard to get actual support if it's not a user group. So actually the Yolobox Mini seems a little more appealing to me for someone like me that has a bigger system already built out. I don't really need 4 inputs. I just need the 1 input. I kind of wish there was an SDI model that I could go straight from our professional stuff into. So that might be interesting. I think it's a more niche device that could serve certain churches really well. So let me know your thoughts on the Yolobox Ultra. Have you used one? Are you curious about it? Are you thinking about going 4K? So this one kind of interests you with the ISO recordings and some of the features that it has. I think it has a lot of potential, and so do you. Remember, we can do a lot of great things. Let's do it all for God's glory. We'll see you in the next one.